I want you to remember Clark in all the years to come, in your most private moments. I want you to remember my hand at your throat. I want you to remember the one man who beat you. This is your look at the Prime 1 Studio Batman The Dark Knight Returns premium bust of Batman. To celebrate one of the most influential stories ever told in comics, Prime 1 Studio is proud to present the PBDC-03 Batman bust from Batman Arkham City, or the Batman Dark Knight Returns. Frank Miller completely reinvents the legend of Batman in this saga. Forced to take action, the Dark Knight returns in a blaze of glory, taking on a whole new generation of criminals and matching their level of violence. Before we get a closer look at the Dark Knight Returns bust from Prime 1 Studios, the first thing we're going to do is figure out how big the statue bust actually is. I'd also like to send out a big thank you to the folks over at Prime 1 Studio who provided the sample of Batman that we're having a look at right now. With the holiday season fast approaching, fans of the Dark Knight Returns may want to add this one to your collection. I'll provide the link down below in the video description that will take you over to Prime 1 Studios' website, as well as an Amazon link where right now they have discounted shipping on this particular piece. Nonetheless, though, the bust stands 10.9 inches in height, and that can translate to centimeters as being a bust that stands 27.8 centimeters tall. Just a couple of things that came included with the bust when I got this out of box. The first thing is a 2017 catalog. And though it is 3 years later, now coming up to 4, just quickly flipping through this and seeing some of the incredible statues that Prime 1 Studios have been producing over the years makes me think I should have jumped on board getting the premium grade statues at an earlier date. Even like looking at some of the Batman Arkham Knight statues, like this exquisite looking Batgirl and equally exquisite Harley Quinn. Like I said, they have put out some pretty incredible pieces, some Transformers, some Ninja Turtles, and the list goes on. Even some incredible looking Darkseid statues you can see right there. I'll be looking at that later on. The other thing that came included with this particular statue is just some rather simple instructions, all of which we'll cover over at the base of this review, but it does give you a swappable head. I've chosen for the opener of this review to go with this look of Batman, but I'll show you how the two different portraits change very much the look and vibe of Batman when you see it. On the back is some just assembly instructions. Pretty straightforward, actually. You get the main bust piece, you get the two alternate swappable heads, and then you get the back of Batman's cape. All can be assembled rather quite easily, with the two heads being changed out via magnets. Stripping down the bust for a second to show you this is what it looks like when you get it out of the tray. 4 pieces are included to put together your Batman Dark Knight Returns bust. You get 2 swappable heads. You get, of course, the main bust, which is attached to the base, and then you get Batman's standalone cape. And don't worry, we'll go through each one of the things individually, and then we'll put this thing all together, and you can see for yourself what an incredible looking piece this is. But of course, as we always do on this channel, the first thing we'll have a look at is the bust itself, which so happens to be attached to the base bottom, as you can see right there. Before we get to all of this, because there's a lot to really look at here, I really want to show you the amount of detailing that Prime 1 Studio put just to the base bottom. Of course, the thing that the bust is going to be attached to. Now, the coloring, if you flip it around, and I just want to spin this around and remind also everybody out there that this is a very limited release. Only 1,000 copies released worldwide. The one that I have so happens to be 166 out of that limited run of 1,000 pieces. You also have Premier Busts. Along the top, you have Dark Knight Returns, and above that, you've got Batman Arkham City and Prime 1 Studios logo. You also are treated, not to all the corners, but at least to the opposing corners, these foam feet. You get one on either side and one at the top there to prevent any scratching on surfaces when you put the statue out for yourself. Now, before we look at the finer details on the bust, I really want to show you guys the bust bottom. Of course, the thing that the bust is going to be attached to when you get it out of the tray. Just as much detail and care have been put into the base as has been put into the bust as well. It's been done in black, but as you can see, they've carefully brush stroked a metallic gold over top of it. Not enough to fill the black in completely, and the two-tone effect of having the more darker color still showing through adds a little bit of wear to it, giving it a sense of age, and I really do like that quite a bit. Obviously, as we move a little bit further up, we're treated to Batman's torso, and with it being a bust, you're not obviously getting anything from the abdomen down, so utility belt is omitted in this case. Arms are also left off completely, but still just as much goes into the bust for having less of it showing. For example, I want to really bring your attention to these little gashes that Batman has, for example, on his shoulders. A real nice touch on their part to actually make it look like it's still fresh and still bleeding. I also do like the fact that his meshing of suit, you can see there's a discoloration underneath it. So even though the gashes are right here, you can clearly see that there would be some seepage of blood underneath it, to the point where it's even discolored the gray coloring of his costume. Of course, he's got his larger bat emblem, something more famous now with the Affleck design of Batman, going the broader route of the bat logo. And I've always been a big fan of the more simplistic yet larger size of the bat logo from The Dark Knight Returns. You can see there's multiple gashes and cuts into the surface of it. I especially like the fact that the bat logo is raised as well. Now, I had mentioned here when we were looking at the blood, how it's thrown the color off of the gray. It even also is here as well. When you see it into the emblem, you can see that there's this brushing of almost like a cream color that they've put to it, where it looks like he's been slashed and residual has remained, probably like dirt and debris. But he's also got that seeping into the side of his costume as well. It's really nice touches on their part. I mean, those are deep sunken gashes as well. I could run my finger right into those opened areas. So you can imagine that that would have made some serious impact on the Caped Crusader. He's got it everywhere, really. He's got it here on the sides of his arm, for example, where his arm would reside. Again, I like the discoloration of the coloring around the wound, so that they're thinking that not only, obviously, is Batman going to be showing visible damage, but there's probably a whole lot going on underneath it that we're not also seeing as well. I do really like the fact that they've added the airbrushing of the darker color around the little wrinkled areas where the muscle would pull and stretch the costume. As you can see, some exquisite detailing, not only sculpted, but painted in there as well. Now, the thing they did do with the bust is when you start spinning it around, we've already kind of looked at the bottom anyways, but you'll see that the whole back end remains rather unfinished. And I really don't think it necessarily had to be finished on the back anyways. I mean, considering as well that the cape is going to be flowing over this and covering most of what we're seeing anyways, I prefer actually liking the design instead of having the costume only being on the front of the bust and the side remaining still smooth and slick to the touch. But we'll put the bust down here for a second. And of course, the other thing we'll look at, the next step we'll want to do when putting this together, is Batman's cape. Slightly more shortened, it only is obviously going to go only to the point of the bust. It's not going to go any further past that point for the sake of resting this on a surface. But I do like the fact that the cape itself has a more kind of a faux leather look to it. The texturing that you would expect to see on regular hide also makes an appearance here on the cape itself. And they brushed over top of it as well, so it's not just a dark black. There's a whole lot of additional color tones that have been added in there as well. Not to mention the splattering of mud that you can see caked along the bottom edged areas. The ripped and torn cape that the Caped Crusader has had has been very nicely, like I said, caked and soaked in splatterings of mud. I really like the way that that looked, getting a good close look at it. Here's what the front looks like. You're not really going to be seeing too much, although this bottom edge is a continuation when we rust it on top of the bust. Now, the cape itself isn't magnetized. It's only really the head sculpt. So when you're putting this down onto the bust, you're literally just resting it down onto the shoulders, and then you're just sort of sitting it down onto the groove like so. It still moves a little bit, But obviously that will get rectified when we have a look at the next thing, and that's the 2 swappable head options that Prime 1 Studio includes with this bust. Next, we'll have a look at Batman's portrait, and it comes with a pair of these with varying expressions. You'll see how they change when I do them, a comparison side to side. But this is the one that I started this review with, and likely this is going to be the one that finds itself settled onto Batman's shoulders, because I prefer more the grimaced expression that is sculpted on this Batman's face. But you'll see the difference of the other one when we bring that one in. This one does have the opportunity as well to see full Batman's teeth, top and bottom row. And even though they're not grimy, they're still remaining white. I do like that Prime 1 actually added a little bit of slight gray color just to the top and just to the bottom. So it does add a little bit of contrasting depth to his smile. I do like that the smile has formed natural creases in his cheeks. You can see those on the side. And they've also sculpted in some pretty nice looking stubble and a little bit of slight grayish discoloration along the bottom of his chin. So it does look like he's getting a little bit of that starting to grow back. Like with his cape, his cowl also has that similar texturing, like it looks like it's been stitched together using leather. You can also see natural seam lines running up the back of the cowl, running across the divider in between the 2 ears, and even the ears themselves also have stitch work done to them as well. It's those nice little touches of detail that I certainly appreciate, because it does then make Batman look like he's made this costume for himself. Not to mention, of course, the grimaced look on his face with that furrowed brow. You can see tons of wrinkles developing there around the areas of his eyebrows, and of course we can look at his eyes also. Now the thing about his eyes is, like in the comics, his eyes remain white. And I don't know if it's just the fact that because of the way that they've painted those eyes, they're not completely all white. There's just a little glimmer of gray also added in there as well. That under certain lit conditions, like light conditions right now, it kind of looks like on certain angles that I can see irises on his eyes. I think it's just more so my eyes playing tricks on me. But this is his one head sculpt. We'll go ahead and pick up the other one so that you guys can see the difference between the two. There's definitely a very considerable jump in expression between the two. Again, you may prefer going this route where you've got a more angrier looking Batman. But I think of the two, I kind of still like the more grimaced smile instead. We'll put this one down just for a second and we'll look at this one. A lot does change when it comes to this mouth expression, especially for the fact that his mouth is open. It gives us also the opportunity to see a fully visible sculpted tongue. And a nice touch on their part is that they added a semi-gloss to the tongue, so it actually looks wet to the touch. The same also could be said when it comes to his teeth as well. They've even added what almost seems to be, if you look at the back of his teeth right there, it almost kind of looks like he's got a few cavities. I don't know if it's just the fact that they painted it black the way that they did, but it kind of looks like Batman's got a few little cavities located on the back. So that's really some nice touches of detail that they added. Again, you've got the stubble there sculpted and painted in gray. And again, that rather familiar texturing that they did to the hide or leather that they used for the material for his cowl. Again, when you see the two side to side, it would be entirely your interest and opinion as to which one you'd want to go with. I kind of lean again to this one, but I think both head sculpts are quite stellar. Seeing as I spent so much time really looking at the grimmest expression portraits, we'll instead use this head sculpt when it comes to putting it onto the socket, or into the socket of his neck, and attaching, of course, to the rest of the bust. Now this is magnets. You'll probably see there's an outline here where the magnet would be sitting inside of that, which also then means when it comes to swapping out Batman's head, it's quite easy. You just literally put that in place, and the magnet pulls it in and keeps it rather secure. The thing about then having the cape being slightly more loose, you can see it's not going to be going anywhere for the fact that the head is very firmly rooted then in that socket. If you then decide you want to change out the Batman head sculpt, going the route of using magnets is the best thing they could have done. Because again, if you want to just swap this out, you pull this off. And you do notice when you take the head off and swap from one to the other, how much of a pull that strong magnet has. And then just switching it back to the alternate head sculpt, you get this one instead as well. So again, I really like the fact that they used magnets for this. A lot of companies, I'm sure, are going the route, especially when it comes to these premium grade statues. Going the route of using magnets is always the smarter route to go instead of using simply just pegs. It means a much more secure fit, and it means also when it comes to swapping out the heads, you're really not having to force anything against the statue. You simply just pull one head out, and you replace it with the one that you want to go with instead. Prime 1 Studio is the resident go-to name if you want that oversized, grand spectacle of a statue. But you know the praises of the Batman Dark Knight Returns is the fact that it's smaller in scale. If you are somebody that's been collecting statues for a while and you're running out of space fast, the Batman Dark Knight Returns bust is ideal because it's not taking up a whole lot of space. And even though the Caped Crusader has forfeited his lower half and his arms, there's just as much detail that Prime 1 put into the piece when you look at the things like the scratches and tears in his costume, the areas on his skin that have the visible blood and wounds, not to mention the fact that the areas around the wounds look like there's blood that's starting to soak and seep through the fabric of his costume are all really nice touches that make this look like a badly bruised and battered bat. Now, of course, this one does have the swappable heads, which is something that's great about this particular piece, is that you do have the option to go either from the grimmest head expression that we started with this review, or you can go with the angrier expression that we're wrapping up the review with. The fact that they're also both attached by magnets means it's easy to swap out the heads on a whim. If you decide 1 minute you like to have the more angrier expression, you can just easily pop off the yelling expression that we've got here in Final Looks and just pop it securely in place with a very strong magnet. I was really surprised with how strong that magnet pull was until the first time I popped the head off and replaced it with the other that came included with it. Again, it's a really great looking statue. And again, the pros of it is it's small. It doesn't take up very much space. It's ideal for a desk. It's ideal for a small shelf space. It's ideal for collectors that already have a whole room of statues and still want to pick up another Prime 1 release. And again, this is ideal because it's nice and small and compact. A big thank you to the folks over at Prime 1 Studios that provided the sample that we had a look at in this review of the Batman Dark Knight Returns premium bust from Batman Arkham City. If you guys are interested in picking this one up for yourself, you can head on over to Prime 1 Studio website. I'll provide that link down below in the video description. You can also head on over to the Amazon link as well, which right now has discounted shipping. Ideally, right now, especially during the holiday season, if you know of somebody, or maybe you're somebody yourself that loved the Batman Dark Knight Returns saga and would like to get a statue for it, a great time now is to be picking up the statue for yourself, either by going to Prime 1 Studio website or by going to the Amazon link with the discounted code for shipping. Today we were having a look at the Prime 1 Studio Batman Arkham City. This was the Batman Dark Knight Returns premium bust of Batman. What an exquisite looking piece. If you guys are enjoying the content you're seeing on this channel, have yet to do so, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, turn that bell notification on, and most definitely stay tuned to this channel Monday to Friday at 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's when new videos will be popping up. And lots of stuff coming your way, guys, so keep your peepers peeled to this channel. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.